Hello, awesome and amazing people. Welcome to today's Coffee Tea Chat. The topic for today is Esports and CTFs by our awesome speaker, Peter. And I will pass this on to him.
Oh, thanks, Angie. It's great to catch up, and I really love meeting with and contributing and having discussions with energetic people like yourself who are creating new conversations, and that's really exciting because I think it's very important. One of the things the cybersecurity industry is known for is that we, no one person has all the skills, and it's such a vast industry and so many different domains and specialties that everybody has to kind of lean in and help each other out and collaborate. And I think that's a really tremendous thing. And a little hot tip for people out there, if you find you want to develop yourself as a digital creative, you kind of find out who's got more time and doing more energy and have bigger followers than you have, and lean into what they're doing and support them. And it's quite amazing. So I'm very happy to be here today, and lovely to sit in, I think, back in April on one of the previous ones. So that was a great conversation as well. I think it was about our Pacific Island sort of week, I think it was, we were featuring at that time.
Yeah, that's right. Month. That was in May. Yeah, that was May.
Yeah, and that was a really great conversation, and that there's kind of a thread that we'll pick up through to some of the things we'll talk about today, which is really great. So yeah, I'm Peter Lake. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I don't really have a boat, but there's a nice background. I like to use my own images because I'm a bit of a photographer. I like to. This was when I took down at Docklands in Melbourne there. So it really is quite cold here this morning, as cold as it might look in that photo. so it was like getting up and about early, and I always love talking with people across the Pacific. It's really tremendous. So my background is I've had amazing career. I spent 20 years in Telstra, working in a company which is kind of like the US equivalent of AT&T, I guess would be an analogy there. Then 15 years at Cisco, and then during COVID, I finished up in Cisco in about 2015. Sort of poked around a little bit, doing some consulting and things, and had a little bit of a industry break for a while. And then after that, I moved through to during COVID. We had the harshest lockdowns anywhere in the world here in Victoria, so I was angry about that for the first 30 days. There was no point in being angry about it. Might as well put the time to good use. So I was locked in my house for 304 days with curfews and not being allowed out for more than an hour a day, and it was ridiculous. But that's what happened. That's what history records. So I chose to put into something more positive, and completed a master's in cybersecurity, which was a logical pivot for me, and I completed that in 2023. So very excited to be part of the cybersecurity community now, and I'd had a little bit of experience with that, obviously at Telstra and Cisco, but back then it was very much at the edge of the network, and now it's very much on our desktop in our clouds. The whole journey has been an interesting one. So look, that's a little bit about me. I have an intense interest in capture the flag and esports and the convergence of those two domains, because I really see it as a way of developing the talent pool that we're short of in cybersecurity and tapping into the younger generation. You can probably tell I'm what they call a later career person. So it's very important to me that I'm leaning into developing the next generation that's going to come through in cybersecurity. So that's a little bit about me. And yeah, so looking forward to the chat today. It should be great.
Lovely introduction of yourself and how you got in, and how you how should I say this? Converged esports and CTFs together. And everyone who's in the call, definitely, talk too. This is a coffee tea chat. It's really informal. It's a nice conversation with the community. This is a networking event that we do every month. And for those who are not here tonight, this is recorded, so you can look back at it later and enjoy the conversation.
For those who, and those who are new to this sort of format, there's lots of little things here we can play with and cheer on, and if you like things, or
I like this.
And please put the comments in there, and we'll try and get to as many of them as we can. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop something in. We'll probably try and leave a few minutes at the end for questions, and that'll be great.
Yeah. Let's see who else is here. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. I mean, if it's muted, I understand, or you can comment. Yeah. Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Javier.
Well, I was happy to join the call. Esports is something new to me, but I'm familiar with network security. Thank you for creating the space, first of all. And second, happy to get an invitation to this community. My experience is pretty much started with tech support and IT support back, say, 15 years ago at the university, and eventually I graduated in engineering. And IT is like let's say, a hobby of mine, and eventually got certified on some things in Microsoft. And one thing led to another. One of my first opportunities was for working for Google in different IT operations, supporting one of their first products. And I had to learn everything about IT system administration and network security through 2 years. And so plus a couple other things in terms of QA reporting and code push, which we call nowadays, push into repositories, etc. So networking security was like, okay, you need to learn how to harden the systems and specific networks your project is running on. So it was really nice. Now, last year, I've been part of the TEALS program, the Microsoft sponsors in schools, and I went back into the cybersecurity track. So I was happy to I was happy to go over some of those knowledge of fundamentals and help students understand some of those things, as well as helping the instructor running the courses or some of the labs.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great initiative. And throughout my journey, being a STEM coach in high schools has been part of my story as well. Particularly, we had a program in Australia called the CSIRO, is the Commonwealth. I can never remember the algorithm, but the acronym. But it's the Information Science Community Research Organisation, I think. Yeah. So CSIRO have a scientist and ICT in schools program as part of STEM here in Australia, and
nice.
Cisco was kind of leaning into that. John Chambers, who was the CEO at the time, said 20% of my staff are going to do 200 hours of STEM coaching in the ensuing by 2020, I think it was. So he kind of made that. Wow, here might pick me. So I was doing a lot of STEM coaching in schools, and so part of my journey into cyber now has kind of tapped back into some of that experience I had with STEM. So I was a mad astronomer. Everyone at Cisco had an eccentric hobby, astronomy, which I love. So 1976, my high school teacher said, "Peter, you'll never be an astronomer. There's only one in Australia. His name's Duncan Steele, and you won't replace him." because your maths is terrible.
Wow. Okay.
So that was STEM in 1976, but anyway, that was So I go, okay, well, but you'd take a step in life in your journey, and I was very fortunate. I was at Cisco to be able to build a telescope, put it on a hill, and have it remotely connected. And I was the first ever person to do a exoplanet transit of a planet moving in front of the parent star and seeing the light dip, and broadcast that live off a telescope with a panel of scientists into a Google Hangout at the time for Destember, which was a program you might have heard of, Angie, in Texas. They run for STEM for girls.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my first little toe in the water of being online and virtual and having telescopes and science going, and it was all very exciting. So I think when you do have a good career and you're being successful in your role and you've got time to give back, I think it's important that all of us do that. Particularly me, as now I'm in later portion of my career, it's very important to me that I'm doing more of that, because the younger generation, that they're very innovative, very digitally connected, but there are some life skills and process that Javier is talking about, doing governance and risk and reporting and all those kind of things that you can bring that benefits back and teach the younger generation how to tap into that as well. So
right. I also like how Capture the Flags, or even esports, it teaches you how to have critical thinking skills too, especially for cybersecurity. Like, that's essential. People don't talk about as much. And obviously the soft skills that you can get too from, I would say, esports and CTFs, like you're usually in a team setting. I understand there's individual gameplay too, but when in a team setting, you're learning how to work with other people, and there's opportunities for leadership. That's what I do at Women's Society Cyber. I'm a director there. So for cyber competitions, so sometimes we're making CTFs, and other times we're playing CTFs in a team setting, and it's usually monthly. And we also have CTF practice sessions. That was not coming out right. That's what happens when you speak different languages. So
no, that's right. Well, no, you're spot on, and that kind of how my interest was kind of capture the flag, how my interest was captured. I was on a call, and Professor Ryan Coe of University of Queensland in Australia here, he is kind of like the set up Team Oceania here in Australia, and he's got Joshua Scarbrook and Abby Coy who were there helping with that now. But Ryan Coe was kind of the founder of that Team Oceania, because he had lived and worked in New Zealand as well as in Australia. So he was doing this research project. It was a mega CRC. I go, this is really interesting. What's going on here? And so he was talking about doing some research for mega events in what they call the green and gold decade, which is from 2022, I think, when he started, through to 2032, where there's going to be a mega event at every year for that decade in Australia, leading up to the Olympics in Brisbane in 2032. So he was kind of looking, okay, well, how do all mega events work, and they were citing the fact that the Tokyo Olympics had 2,000 people in the grandstands watching, but there were 40,000 cyber attacks in the first hour on all the infrastructure, right? So it was kind of like, so he's kind of, and I'm sitting there watching. I think this is really interesting. I really like this, and then I'm going, every slide in this slide deck has esports in it. Esports. And you go, why the hell is a professor of cybersecurity got esports in every one of his? And I'm going, what the hell is going on here? Right? So then about I think I was a couple of days I was going, this was really puzzling me. Okay, I hadn't had a chance to talk to him personally at the time, and it was kind of like and then 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday I sat Bolter up. Oh, I get it, I understand. And it was kind of like, so,
yeah, that moment.
yeah, so I mean, as Australia, we'd had the school where my own children went. They're adults now, but you know, they were the Rocket League champion in Australia and representing Australia internationally in Rocket League. And I go, oh, that's interesting. And then I started to look at, okay, well, esports has really taken off in Australian high schools. Is very popular now. You know, people who, I mean, we often talk about our tribe and, you know, who we mingle with, who we feel comfortable with, who we work with, and we reach across tribes, you know, with diversity and inclusion in our industry today. But, you know, not everyone can run 100 meters in 9 seconds, right? Not everyone can swim 100 meters in, you know, was it 47 seconds or whatever? So we're coming up to the Olympics, you know, in Paris this month. And whilst the stories and background and the journey and the perseverance that leads to someone standing on the blocks in the pool, you know, Australia does very well at swimming and right up there with the US. So we're always proud of that fact that we're going head to head with the US in swimming. But if you take that sport and you look at it and you go, well, hang on, these young people, you know, got out of the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, did 4 hours a day of, you know, up and down the pool, following the dotted line on the bottom, you know, doing their strokes and everything. They did that 4 hours a day for 10 years, and they have the right to stand on the blocks. But you know, that's not everyone's journey. It's not everyone's story. And I think the reason why esports is has really taken off and exploded is because there are other pathways out there. And you look at the gaming industry, you know, the but I don't mean gambling, I mean gaming as in, you know, computer games and online games, right, and all that, mobile application games, all those kind of, yeah, it's worth, you know, over $300 billion a year now as an industry. Yes, it is. You have contract players who are being paid $180,000 a year to play esports. And as I started to explore this, there was this whole realization that wow, this is, you know, it's not only the game, it's the marketing, it's the merch, it's the team. And I started reading this. Oh, so you know, he's not been performing and he's been dropped by his team, but he's been poached by this other team over here. And it sounded to me like, you know, NFL or, you know, NHL hockey or you know, Australian football. These athletes are being poached and traded. And I go, what the hell? And it is so, it kind of swept past me a little bit, and I hadn't kind of noticed. In the latest research, 81% of Australians are gamers. So, so it's very popular now. And one little story your audience might not be familiar with. There's a little town in Poland called Katowice. And I don't know if you heard this, but for the past 300 years, they've been a coal mining town, right? And they mined coal. And you know, all that's stopping now. So they stopped mining coal. What did they do? They built a massive stadium and 500,000 people come several times a year to play esports in that town. Right, in Katowice in Poland, and it's an incredible story. If you Google the stadium, it's magnificent precinct, but it's been specifically designed for esports, right? So I was sort of becoming aware that esports is a bit of a thing, and as we look at cyber, when I was looking at what Ryan Coe was doing at Queensland University, it's sort of, okay, oh, hang on, there's actually an international cyber security challenge and conference that they're competing in. That last year was in San Diego in California. So in for those who aren't familiar with the full story, in 2021, I think it was, ENISA, the European Cybersecurity Organization, started the International Cybersecurity Challenge, and they sort of leveraged the partnerships across the world with their leadership, and they brought the US, Australia, and New Zealand and the Pacific Islands together, and that's where the Pacific Island angle came back in last time. So there was 7 regions. So you got Asia, you got African continent, you got Latin America, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, and ENISA. So there were the 7 groups, right? So what they did is they had the first one in, I think it was in 2022. Yeah, 2022 was the first official one. I think everyone went to the home of the Olympics in Greece and competed there, and that was all very successful. I think, without putting words on all teams around, I think there was an impetus there to really grow that out and make it a big thing around the world. So in 2023, they had the second one. So in the first one, Australia came 4th, ENISA won. I think US was 2nd, and Asia was 3rd, I think, and Australia were 4th. So in 2023, ENISA won again, and Australia was 2nd, and the US came 3rd, and it was, whoa, shots across the bow now. So I'm saying Australia, Australia and New Zealand in the Pacific team, which is called Team Oceania. So it's not just Australia and New Zealand; it's all the Pacific Islands. So you go, okay, well, hang on. So in the Pacific Islands, we've got Niue, Tuvalu, Cook Islands, Tonga, Vanuatu. All these kind of other countries as well, which is the discussion we had last month about how important that is to develop cyber in those communities as well. So as I was looking at this coming together, I go, well, hang on. I thought, oh, this is really interesting. So I went to a conference called DreamHack, which for cybersecurity people wasn't a hacking conference. It was kind of like a gaming digital creative hack kind of context to that. So DreamHack is a conference that goes around the world, and it's so if you can imagine every game that gets played, like CS:GO, Rocket League, everything, Valorant, all of them are there, and then you put in all the characters in the games and the cosplayers who dress up as the characters in the games, and then all the streamers and digital creatives who stream the games, and then all the artists who do the art and create all the characters in the games, all in one building for a whole weekend. And it was just a mind-blowing experience for me. And I'm going, okay, so I'm now aware of Capture the Flag, and I can see where esports are going. And I say, okay, there's something happening here that I'm not quite sure I understand that we can bring together. And so I was very fortunate where I had an invite to the business lounge, and I met with esports team managers, the people running the tournament, the whole conference. And I ran into this guy, literally the first guy I ran into in the business lounge that they had there. He goes, oh, yeah, I'm the network manager here running. Yeah. I go, okay, tell me what you do. And he goes, well, so we run a network just for esports. I go, hang on, sorry, what? I run a digital network just for esports. I go, okay, so tell me more about that. And as he talked to me and said, he said, well, there's people in Nepal who are esports people and they're champions, and but the latency of their network, they've got to go all the way through Guam over the US, go to a server, and the round trip time is 389 milliseconds.
Wow.
And so he's saying that that the in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, it's a first-person shooter game, and it's like hair trigger. These people have got incredible reaction times, right? So these poor people up here in Central Asia were kind of going. So what this company in Australia called OneCode, they worked out. Okay, where are the top 20 countries around Asia? And what they did is design. They worked with 22 ISPs in 22 different countries and tuned a network so that the latency for each country was exactly 89 milliseconds, so that everyone could compete. And I'm going, whoa, because I actually know, having worked at Telstra and Cisco, I know how hard that is to actually do, because you've got quality of service, you've got, all whole different kind of things you have to manage there, right? So I was like, wow, this is amazing. So there's a lot more going on here. So anyway, to cut a long story short, there was this panel called Performance for Esports Team. I go, what the hell is this? I watch this panel. So anyway, I sit down, and as you go to conferences, you go and listen to a panel discussion, and this panel was okay, here's the 3-time Rocket League Coach of the Year, and this guy here who's esports psychologist. I go, what is an esports psychologist? So I had no idea what was, I was just, it was like a big, my brain was just blowing up with all the things that I'd never come across before. So anyway, and then the next guy is Elijah from Crank, and he's the Valorant coach for a team of people who had autism who were competing. And at that conference, I think it might have been that one or PAX, 3 of the top 15 players were from Crank, no barriers. So I'm going, okay. So who are the people? And anyway, he came off stage and just got mobbed by these people in these t-shirts from his esports team. His Valorant esports. I need to find out what's going on here. So anyway, we kind of met and had a conversation about, the fact that capture the flag. It's kind of creative. It's involving. It's tapping into the skills, and esports is kind of okay. What I could identify, and looking at them side by side, which is kind of my way of analysing things, a bit strategic like RVA probably is, but I put them side by side and I go, well, what are the commonalities here? And I picked out 5 things, right? So firstly, focus, very important. Secondly, strategy, right? So focus and then strategy, and then teamwork and collaboration, situational awareness. I subsequently found out that often esports players will have the cans on for the game, but they'll have earbuds on inside so they can hear the crunch and talk to their team while they're actually working. So the situational awareness of what's going on is very important. Yeah. And then the 5th thing was every game has how can I do this? Every game up in the corner has a little map, right, of what's going on in the game. In that map is the pathway, the topology of the ground, that your range that you're operating in. In there, your health statistics on your infantry. I'll see you can see where your other team members are, and you can see where the targets are. And so it's kind of like, as I looked at this, I thought, well, wow, there's something here. 10 months later, here I am. I'm now consulting into Crank. We have a capture the flag team there that's ranked number 38. We're not very good yet. 38 out of 60 teams in Australia, but we've only been going a few months. We're ranked, I think, 3,800 out of 8,500 out of 36,000 teams globally. We've got, 16 crew that are diagnosed with autism who are, on Australia's national disability insurance scheme, because they've got significant opportunities to uplift their capability. So I'll come back to what that is in a minute. But so we're coaching them, and we're going through these 5 things, and we've developed a game map that sits up in the corner. Here's what the career. Here's where the education pathways are. Here are all the games you can play. Here are the self-paced learning, like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, Fifth Domain, all those. And then here are the internships and pathways that we now can create. Because when you're a neurodivergent person, or if you have autism, a job can look like a mountain a long way away, and you just having a coach to just help you take that next step and keep you pointed in the right direction. People with ADHD kind of, all over the place, and that focus, the ability to focus and build a strategy. So I started to unpack these 5 things from what I gleaned from looking at esports and capture the flag side by side. So that's kind of what led me to where I am today. Sort of coaching at Crank No Barriers, which we like to think that they're in cybersecurity. I'm sure the barriers to entry are very low, because it's one of the true industries where you can hack your way in. You learn ethical hacking, and you practice your trade. And like the swimmers and the basketball players, you do a little bit of something every day and you get better and better. And that's why training, and that's why I love this term cyber athlete, which they use at this Team Oceania sort of IC3 games level, is very appropriate. So anyway, I've been rabbiting on for a few minutes, so I'm just going to pause there and let you ask a couple of questions, and if there's any from the audience. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, so I know you're helping out and you're giving back, and thank you for that, by the way. That's awesome. There's not many people I know that do that, especially with CTFs or esports. That's not common nowadays. Would you be interested in maybe making a small set of CTFs?
Yeah, I think I'm still like anyone else. I'm learning my way, finding my way, and with my coaching at Crank, I sort of, the only way I felt, it's just me, but I could go and sit alongside a very experienced team and learn, and soak up all their information, which I kind of like to do if I can, but building one from zero was something that, okay, well, I'm going to walk a mile in these people's shoes, as and like my wife's a teacher, so quite often a teacher, might only be a couple lesson plans ahead of the student. So they're always well prepared, of course, but yeah. So I kind of I thought when I first looked at it, I could never do one of these, but then one of the challenges I saw, which was been my favorite so far, was one, I think it was from Dice for one, and it was one that really caught my eye and really engaged me in the challenge because it sort of played to my areas of interest. And I thought, actually, I probably could do some really cool astronomy ones, astronomy-based ones, a bit of STEM and unpack a few other things as well. But and this particular challenge was like it had a tombstone with all these really weird-looking numbers on it, and had the fractal symbol, and it was here lies. I think it was called time. It was about here lies a famous mathematician, and it's Fibonacci. It's got the big thing,
Right. Yeah.
Not the big fractal. So it was an OSINT challenge. So, and it kind of captivated me and taught me a couple of things about CTF. And I think this is some of the skills where certainly I have, I'm not a very good mathematician, as we talked about before, but so on cryptography, I'm good at the pattern matching side of it, but not so much the math, the math nerd side of it.
No worries.
And what I could see is that there were all these numbers on the tombstone. I go, hang on, 3 of those numbers are the same. Okay. And 2 of those numbers are really long and some of the others are really short. So when you look at it like that, I won't give the game away in case you come across this one, but we know from Capture the Flag that the ASCII characters of left bracket and right bracket are 123 and 125, and they're at the back end of the alphabet, so they're a lot longer if you use that as the function of a Fibonacci function. As in Fibonacci sequence, every number is the sum of the previous. So the next number in the sequence is the sum of the previous two. So these numbers were getting longer and longer, and I could see, okay, I have no idea what that says, but I can see that the one in the 7th position and the one in the last position are the two longest numbers. So, left bracket, right bracket, I'm in. So I won't. We don't share flags, obviously, but I found that was the one that really captivated me because it kind of, as a photographer, I knew about Fibonacci lines and when you're composing photos and stuff, and I'd taken photos of ferns unfurling their fronds and things, which follows a Fibonacci thing. So that was the one that kind of caught me, and I go, wow, that's really exciting. And then I could see, okay, what the logic of building a actual challenge was. You had to bring a couple of things. You had to have a bit of a quirky humor. You had to have a little a bit of it's almost like evil genius of creating the challenge. Who's going to think of that? So that kind of captivated me a little bit as well. So I think what I'd be very interested in is understanding, because I know I might have mentioned it before, but there's 36,000 teams have competed in Capture the Flag competitions on CTF time at least. And that doesn't include all the academic on-site ones that are held elsewhere, right, by companies.
Right.
But just the CTF time one, there's 36,000 teams from a whole heap of different countries have competed just since January 1st, right? So what I guess my question to you is, and I think when we had our first conversation, I thought, you're writing full-time challenges for the season that's coming up? Okay, how does that work? So I'd be very interested in hearing from you, because when I'm looking at pathways and particularly for neurodivergent people and people with autism, some of them are more than capable of writing challenges like that if they have the skills. I mean, these are people who mod games just for their personal use. I don't like this game. Can you mod it for me so that I can do this and that instead? So these people have coding skills. They're always, they're very technical, and so I'm interested in maybe if there's an angle for developing out who writes the challenges, and if there's a marketplace for, is it a commercial thing or is it just a voluntary effort at this stage? And I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
As of right now, I am just giving back to the community. I'm not making money off of any cybersecurity challenge that I've ever made. I actually started off just like you. I was on the team for Cyberjetsu. I was just playing the CTFs, but then one day, because I've been given back by doing, how should I call it? Something like a coffee tea chat here, CTF walkthrough. Usually it's with Try Hack Me or another platform, maybe Hack the Box, whatnot. And then one day I was invited to the leadership team and they were like, hey, we're looking for people to make CTF challenges for our annual CTF. And I think this was for the Wicked 6 annual Cyber Games. That's partnered with Cyberjetsu. It's our fundraising CTF that we hold every spring. And I was like, well, I never made CTF challenges before. Like, I have some coding experience and I've obviously played for a few years, so I know what the format is. But I had a lot of imposter syndrome at first because I was like, I don't know if I'm cut for this. They were just like, just do it. Like, what's the worst can happen? We have a QA team here that can look at the challenges. We have time to plan it out. So I think one of the easiest things to do is actually do something like OSINT, for example. You don't need any coding skills. You're looking
Right.
for certain clues to get the flag. I think that's good. And I also learned that CTF challenges can literally be anything. For those who not know, outside of cybersecurity, once upon a time I did K-pop dancing. I was able to get some inspiration from some of those experiences and put it into a CTF challenge before. Not live yet, but we're just talking about it now. It can literally be anything, any clue. And you can take that experience and you can use Python or any type of challenge like cryptography or forensics. That's another good one too, forensics. You can take maybe an image or a video and then just like for example, a K-pop video and make some forensics challenge with that and try to find what's behind that video. I'm not trying to give it away, but you know what I mean.
No,
what's behind that video. By using your forensics tools.
Yeah, and I think that's particularly important, to help educate people's awareness when they're oversharing information online, that they can be giving up very personal information too, and it sort of reinforces that. So with the whole capture the flag is really taken off. So as I worked through that, started to look at how the challenges were created and how this is operating, I sort of identified that CTF Time is doing a great job sort of reporting and collating everything there, but I didn't see anyone who was actually talking about the CTF on a global perspective. So I thought, looks like there might be a bit of a niche here. So I started to kind of lean into the space and explore it a bit further, because if you look at ESL, which do the esports, they've got big marketing, branding, and there are websites that talk about different teams and all that. And as I started to unpack the structure of esports and the way the business worked and where CTF was and where I could sort of see it heading, that there were a couple of other things that fell into place. So we had in Australia here, so we've talked about Team Oceania, which is the 18 to 26-year-old. US Cyber Games are in there. The Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, Wicked Six are all playing in that space and sort of feeding into the US Cyber Games team who compete at that level. And I go, well, what else is going on here? There's a couple of things that I've subsequently found. So back in Australia, where I did my master's at Edith Cowan University, I came across Dr. Michelle Ellis, who's very passionate about Capture the Flag. And she had started the Perth Canberra Girls Coding Network as a collaboration between people in Canberra and people in Perth. So the Perth Can, the PCAN bit, PCAN Plus became the Capture the Flag competition for that Girls Coding Network as it evolved out. And they ran it in 2022, I think, in Perth, Canberra. I think they had a little bit of a toe in the water in Adelaide and Tasmania were wanting to come on board. So I was consulting with a company called White Rook Cyber, and we're very passionate there about developing STEM and cyber talent. So we sort of built out through our network and brought the TAFE colleges in and the TAFE. So we had in 2023, just over a year ago, or just under a year ago, we had a fully national high school competition for the first time. So there were some things. The ANU had the Cyber Taipan program, the Australian Signals Directorate, which is kind of like CISA in Australia. So the Signals Directorate were starting to sponsor things and setting things up. So this PCAN Plus, which came out of the Perth Canberra Girls Coding Network, it's retained the DNA of its name, and so it became last year the high school level competition right across the board. So people are started developing challenges for that and writing CTF challenges, and that was and people going, oh, can you write a challenge? I'm not sure I would know how at the time, but now I probably could. But So as that sort of built out and we went fully national last year for the first time so for those unfamiliar with Australia, we've got Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia, WA, and the Northern Territory, which is a territory, not a state, but that's a whole other discussion. Each of them have, I think each state has about 30 federal members and 6 senators in the government. So that's kind of how the Commonwealth of Australia works. But the whole going coast to coast for the first time at that high school level was a big thing. We had 126 teams and 480 students participating in for the first time, and so that was a big thing. And we're now just about to go around again on August 3rd and 4th. So August was very busy last week because we had Pecan Plus and the ICC games all on practically almost on the same weekend, so or in the same week in early August last year. So, and I'm going, wow, this is a lot bigger than what I understood and a lot bigger than what I thought. So now I've had my exposure to this even further. On just recently, I came across Dustin Childs and the great work that Trend Micro and the 0 Day Initiative are doing. And that's more, so you've got the high schools, you've got the IC3 games, so there's a pathway there for developing talent through to migrate into the industry, develop the tradecraft at different levels of expertise and become more mature. But you know, the top limit at 25 of the IC3 games, and people they age out and go on to. It's a bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know. You age me out, and I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. so you get all these people that are now too old for the IC3. What do they do? I'm not scratching my head. There must be something else out there. So the 0 Day Initiative, and I'll just maybe wrap up on this point. So Dan Childs was very generous to come on the show and do 40 minutes interview like this with me, QR5's news, just recently, and he was talking about so that the prize pool was $1.3 million for one weekend. And I go, hang on, whoa, esports and capture the flag are now, if that's the prize pool for one weekend, you know, we're starting to do, you know, apples for apples here now. So the guy who won, Manfred Paul from Germany, won first prize, $202,000 because he developed the 0 Day exploit that did a double pop on 2 browsers. So knocked over Mozilla and knocked over Chrome. And when I read the write-up of that, it was extraordinary because what he did was he went back into the code and could see the last 2 times they'd tried to fix a problem and found a new way of obfuscating it to overrate the previous 2 fixes, right? So it was absolute genius. A level of tradecraft that I will never possess, but it was incredible. The second prize was $200,000 and a Tesla, because Tesla had sent 4 headed units to the conference so that people could develop, see if there are any 0 days so this is known clean infrastructure that everyone thinks is okay, and they get all these people with really advanced tradecraft in this conference for the weekend, and they found 29 0 days in one weekend. And what impressed me the most, though, was they actually gave a prize for the first vendor to patch their 0 day as well. And I thought that was really indicative of the fact that industry are really on board with this. They value the tradecraft. They value people who don't think like them. Actually pulling apart their stuff and going, okay, well, here's ways you can improve, right? So the whole 0-day initiative is very much a absolute top tier. So if we look at a career pathway and we look at cybersecurity and we don't any talent, we're so many jobs short, the talent's there. I think some of the recruiters don't know how to find it, but there are people, there are skills. I'm finding these skills. I've got some incredible crew that I'm working with that are just, some of them are 15, 16, and they're scaring me in terms of what they're capable of. And I'm just trying to steer them in the right pathway. So if you look at it, high school CTF, and in the US you have the same thing. You have the D1 college US, and some of the other universities now with this distinguished cyber athlete sort of component that sits alongside the basketballers, the hockey players, and the what's the other one? The footballers, right? So when you go to college, you can get a scholarship. The D1 scholarship for a cyber athlete is a real thing in the United States, and I think the United States are very much leading the way through, all the great work of Bradley Wolfendean, Josh Brunty, Jessica Gulick, and all the crew there. That they're really carving out the path, and I think in Australia we're a little bit behind them in sort of not in will and intent and capability, but in just the sheer scale of what's going on in the United States. But we're catching up fast, and there's a lot of great work going on. Anyway, I'll hand it back to you to wrap up. And but yeah, CTF, esports are converging. There's lots of exciting things happening. There's career opportunities there for people. It's a way to develop your tradecraft and pull it together and find a career for yourself. So it's I'm very excited to have bumbled my way through to where I can. So thanks, Angie. It's been great to be on the show.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
I've got time for 10 minutes of questions.
My question was, some of these competitions, were they mostly specific to most of the Capture the Flag competitions, for what I remember, are specifically to finding issues on code, on infrastructure, configurations, on basically pen testing type of competition as well. So I wonder if also there has this is something that you believe has been coming more from industry towards basically the community. Because from my experience, this is initially the first time I saw this sort of color flag competitions, CTFs, where when I was working, say, at Google and a couple other corporations, where they'll do the dog fogging of their product, and they'll have this internal team efforts, or let's say competitions, and there's they'll do, say, either specific things on specific product, whether it was on these vulnerabilities, whether it will be on specific reliability frameworks, or will it be like forensics on like, all right, we have this incident, so this is, this was the issue, and these are the problems, and it will be like, say, the full forensics of what was happening in rescue. So my question is, would you think that this is something that came initially from corporations itself, or is it something that just simply came from other communities and it just went mainstream?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and so I think probably it's evolved out of software and cyber, but it's much more than that now, because if you look at, I'll give you a left field answer to that question. In Australia, we have the security of critical infrastructure, and critical infrastructure is now the main game. And experiences and war games are what the leaders in Australia, in terms of the cybersecurity minister and the Australian Signals Directorate, they're running war games and experiences. If you look at the corporates, in the regulators are saying you're not practicing, you don't have an incident response plan, you're not practicing. So these kind of things are very top of mind to government. They're very top of mind to critical infrastructure. And I think Angie, you might be aware that the US, they had a Hack the Hospital competition last year where for the physical, sorry, before I get on that, the four hazards are IT and cyber, physical security, personnel security, and then natural hazards like earthquakes, tsunamis, and those kind of things. So in critical infrastructure, you have to cover all four, right? So I think the Hack the Hospital competition was, I think the physical security challenge was you had to come in, spoof an RFID card to get into the midwife's office, safe pick the lock of her office, then get out the credentials to get into the neonatal ICU and steal the baby, turn the video cameras off and get out. That was the challenge for the physical security, right? So it's not just coding. It's not just, so yes, it's probably evolved out of coding from the perspective, that the Cisco's, Google's, all the big vendors, have to patch and fix vulnerabilities and things. And, there's a whole industry template for how they do that. And, everyone knows about Microsoft's Patch Tuesday kind of thing. But so, yeah, it is a really good question, Javier, in that, it's kind of moving from software and a car, a Tesla is a software appliance with four wheels, right? So you look at it from the point of view, coding is very important, and it's kind of evolved out of how to best fix the code, how to bring the right people to have the mindset to find the problems in the code in the first place, and then move forward to kind of creating these exercises and cyber ranges and things where we can war game red versus blue. We can do all these kind of things, and I think that's where capture the flag has really got that sweet spot. And I think it's governments, industry, critical infrastructure are very much becoming aware of how much educational value. We got $3.6 billion a year is spent on cyber awareness programs, but people still get phished 75% of the time. So, it's about thinking outside the box, and so I think the hands-on, the practical, the problem solving is really quite critical to the whole endeavor.
Thank you.
Would you like to maybe partner with us in the future, maybe with this Discord community, and we do something together?
Yeah, I think we live in a very interconnected world, and the more we can help each other out and collaborate, the better everyone is. So I kind of looking at how I can best support people, and I think through my own blog and my own channel, I'm just trying to have a big picture, high level conversation just to raise everyone's awareness about CTF. So I've been doing weekly sort of Friday. You might have seen on my YouTube channel, which is QR5-cyber-exp. For those of you who are on the call, you can go in there, and every Friday I've been just doing it around the ground. So this is what's happening this week, just to kind of provide that kind of news feed. Just to sort of help firstly just recognize everyone's efforts, because there's a lot incredible going on, and you look at CTF time and the teams that are putting in the time and seeing how they're going, and Calamari are ahead today, and they're going head to head with some of the other teams like trying to think of Hackers Crew and some of those. They're bouncing around on top, and you can see which competitions they're in. So I find that interesting, and it's just nice to share it with people and recognize the efforts of all the team and in Australia, looking at two teams that are either ends of the Brisbane River, and they're just going head to head in battle each week. So I kind of I like that sort of stuff. But yeah, so yeah, I've been putting some of my content into the content page there in your community, and I think it's great. Discord management is one of my weak spots. I haven't had a lot of experience with running Discord servers, but so I'm learning very quickly how that all works. So
Yeah, I feel that when I first started Discord, I was like, what is this? Like, I knew it was originally it was for gamers, right? And then I just noticed a lot of cybersecurity folks too started to use Discord. They're like, come to my Discord server, let's hang out, let's do this and let's do that. I'm like, wait, we use this too? Until 2020 happened, and then everybody just started to meet more online. That's now the norm, is to meet on Discord and have communities there. Cyber communities are awesome, such as ours.
Yeah, I think one of the other aspects is when you have a community, you can kind of you know each other's values and what your objectives are, and you can kind of help each other out and understand the algorithms in YouTube. It's fluency, repetitive of how quickly you can get stuff out. But then when your audience engage and they comment and add comments and like and subscribe, it lifts you, and no one can get commercialized until you hit certain thresholds. So it's kind of
Right.
We can all help each other by sharing each other's content and moving up and liking and subscribing stuff, which it's the YouTube algorithm. I'm pretty good at pulling things apart, but I cannot work out the YouTube algorithm. It's a dark art, shall we say? It's like, you post
Honestly,
you post one thing and absolutely nothing happens. You post 7 things and one of them goes to 1,500 views, and you just go, well, how? Why? And so it's about understanding that okay, if you are having good conversations, you find someone once said that if you do something and just get better and better and better at it, you won't necessarily find your niche will find you, and then you build a natural community around that, and really it just takes off and grows organically from there. So
Yep. I'm actually coming back to YouTube too. So I was off for a bit. Long story short, I did YouTube for about almost 3 years, and I was like, I never made my 100 subscribers, but I was like, I was never into the numbers or anything like that. I just made it for my Infosec community, originally from Twitter. Now it's X, because I was like, oh, I'll make this Linux video for you on UTM, because nobody knew what UTM was for Mac. It's because we couldn't use VirtualBox. But I think now we can use other ones. Yeah, because the M1 chip or M2 chip was out, so we couldn't use things from the Intel chip like VirtualBox, which was sad. So I made a video with that, and then it hit off, and then the consistency. That's hard. It's consistency.
Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's hard work, but if you like anything, you slice out the amount of time you commit to it, and just make sure that you're dedicated and consistent, churning out the content you can, and just make sure that you're improving that content all the time and lifting the quality bar of it. I'm having a lot of fun with AI. So AI is fantastic. I love it, but it has a very dangerous side to it as well. Which I think not everyone fully appreciates yet, but I'm actually writing kind of like a little, not so much a screenplay, but a situational comedy of, you've probably seen Naomi, my AI anchor person who introduces my segments, and I've got some scripts that I've written that I haven't released yet, that a bit of banter. Naomi's goal is to become sentient, and I'm her creator, and trying to set tasks to help her become sentient. Like, and she ends up in one episode with a labradoodle to see whether she has feelings. So as good as AI is for serious business, it's a ripe fertile ground for taking the mickey out of as well, and having a bit of satirical fun with. So I'm going to do both. So
Nice.
Interesting.
it's been great having a conversation. I love interacting with your audience, and I love what you're doing on Discord. It's really fantastic. So more power to your arm, as they say, in terms of and thanks for all the leadership you're providing to cyber jiu-jitsu and all
Thank
the
you.
great work of women in cyber over there in the US, Wicked Six and the like. So yeah, congratulations, and let's keep the conversation going.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight's call. And I hope that everyone has an awesome day.